What's up? Good morning. So, yes, we're back. Another video for you to be able to understand further how we do our process of RPD construction. And of course, as promised, this will be your guide or a demo video for writing your work authorization or your prescription. So, yeah, your work authorization is actually a written direction to your laboratory technician for the procedures or exact procedures on how your technicians are going to produce your or fabricate your dental restorations. Well, not really the procedure, but actually how it would look like, or how or what are the specific or specificities of your restorations. So this actually is an instruction to your technician on how they are going to make that specific prosthesis, for example, this RPD. And it should be, of course, legible, clear, concise, and readily understood. So, meaning they must be able to understand what you're trying to say or what you're trying to give them as an instruction. So, this is actually um, what they call this, also considered as a legal document, because this being given if proven that your technician did not follow the instructions written in your work authorization, then they are completely liable of whatever the error they have in your, for example, framework. So, for example, they did not follow where your rest seats are supposed to be placed, and you have given your prescription. Then, if you have proof or that work authorization is present and it gives us a proof that your laboratory technician did not follow your instructions, then they are completely liable. So you may ask them to repeat, or you are entitled to not accept that certain restoration. So yeah, again, your work authorization is your definitive instruction to the dental laboratory. And for our case, RPD case, most of the time we use this type of instructions or prescription writing for them to know where to place certain components of your RPD are to be placed. It's because, again, it is us who sees the patient. It's our job to know where exactly to put your components depending on the case of your patient, because it's a case to case basis. You're the one who is seeing the patient and not the technician. So they are not allowed to imply where they're supposed to place their components or the components of your RPD, if in the first place it's you who knows the, what they call this, the state or the status of your patient. So it's you who's supposed to design and not the technician. Again, I repeat, it's you who is supposed to design and not the technician. It's the technician's job to make your design come to life, char. Hindi, not come to life. Like, make it into something that is, yes, well, of course, usable. So yeah, for that being said, well, I'm going to use used paper because we are earth friendly, char. Anyways, so let's begin. So normally we begin our work authorization by writing the name and the address of the dental laboratory. So let's make a makeshift dental laboratory. For example, ABC Dental Lab. So you need there, ABC Dental Lab. Well, most of the time, specific dental laboratories have their own prescription pads. They're just going to give it to your clinics, and you're just going to fill them up. It has boxes that you're just going to check. It has already illustrations that you're just going to shade in or provide. So it's easier if they have their prescription. But for now, we're going to make a prescription out of scratch. So yeah, first is the name and the address of the laboratory. So address, let's place here. For example, Rojas. This is not a real laboratory, huh? Do not send your cases here. Rojas Boulevard. Oh, I'm sorry. Most of the things are moving. So let's refocus. There. And I can move my hand. Rojas Boulevard, San Carlos City, Pangasinan. Alright. Why am I using blue pen? I'm supposed to use black pen. Okay. Never mind. Whatever pen. After that, you're actually going to write, of course, your name as a dentist. So, for example, me, Dr. Zacharias. Yes, we have a lot. Dr. Zacharias. So, what? Dr. Zacharias, and then my address of my clinic, Zacharias Dental Clinic. So, we are in Rizal Avenue, SCCP. San Carlos City, Pangasinan, that's shortcut. And of course, you need to write the date today. So, for example, the date today is April 18. Oh, sorry. 2020. Yep. April. Like that. And then, after that, you're going to write the identification of your patient. So, for example, patient name. So, patient name. So, since we have already what they call this privacy law, you're not supposed to write it. So, you may just write a designation, like an abbreviation. So, AJCZ, patient. And then the age of the patient. Why write the age of the patient? So that they will have a general idea of how old the patient is. So let's write here 35 years old, for example. And then the gender or the sex of the patient. So let's say female, right? So that's about the identification of the patient. Next up, we're going to write our general. Oh, sorry. It's not writing. Instructions. So general instructions. Right. General instructions would include your, of course, general instruction. What's your general instruction? My general instruction is to fabricate a maxillary RPD, or removable partial denture. So normally for general instructions, we start with a please. Please. Because we are kind and courteous. It's actually written in your instructions. So yeah. Please fabricate for our case, we only have maxillary one piece. So one piece means metal framework. That's the meaning of one piece. If I have two maxillary mandibular, it's still one piece. Okay. One piece means metal framework, huh? Removable partial denture. Most of the time, we spell it out, but if you don't like to spell it out, it's just fine. Please fabricate a maxillary one-piece removable partial denture. And then, resurvey if possible, because of course, we're going to give a survey. That's why I'm writing in blue pen. Okay, let's go back to blue pen. Resurvey if possible. Resurvey if possible. Follow tripod. Oops. Follow tripod markings. And then Please follow specific instructions. Or you may also say, please fabricate a one-piece RPD or maxillary one-piece RPD with the following specifications. We just wrote, or no. Or yeah, you can just write or. This is or, huh? Or please follow specifications. There. So, sorry na lang kayo. My video cam is moving. Hehe. So yeah, so what are the following specifications? So you may write here specs, or specs or specifications. So for your specifications, these are specific instructions. So what do I mean by specific instructions for our case? Of course, we have a lot of components. So you're going to actually arrange the specific details based on its importance. So yeah, number one is, of course, the tilt. Yeah, I never saw it coming that we're going to write the tilt. Why do we need to write the tilt? For them to have a general sense of how they're going to follow the tripod markings. So the tilt for the maxillary, so this is max. Usually if we have a mandibular, we can just write the mandibular here. So you're going to like save space. But since we don't have mandibular, just have max, then we go max. So the tilt, since this is what? An ideal case. What is the tilt? Of course, it's in neutral. So you can just write 0 degree. So 0 degree or neutral tilt. So meaning it is in line with or parallel to the surface of the floor. Next, after the tilt, we're going to do major connector. Major connector. So major connector of choice is, so let's see here. Major connector is the correct antero-posterior puzzle strap. So you may write that as a whole, but for me, since I need to just be clear and concise, I can just write AP strap. Okay, that's simple. AP strap. So that's major connector. Do I need to write minor connectors? Yes, I do need to write minor connectors. But first, I need to write my direct retainers. Yep. So first, after major connector, we may write direct retainer. Why is it that direct retainer is first? It's because your direct retainer is actually connected by your minor connector. And for minor connectors, we have how many types? We have 3 types, right? So you may write those individually later afterwards. So direct retainer. So my direct retainer of choice actually, let's place this here so we can see. So I have 3 abutments. So I can write direct retainer with support. So what is support? You say support is actually your rest. So saying direct retainer with support is actually just another term for clasp assemblies. Am I clear? So support is your rest because the main function of your rest is support. And what is support? It is what? The resistance to vertical movements towards the tissue, right? Yes, so direct retainer with support. So yeah, so we have how many? We have 3 direct retainers with support. 3, right? So first up, I may write for the right side. So I'll use 2-digit. Tooth number 1-3 is an I-bar. I-bar and I may write here M. So why did I write M? It just means that since I already wrote my support, it's already implied that this type or this tooth has a direct retainer with support. So if I say M, it means that 1-3 receives a cingulum rest coming from the, oh yeah, it's not M, it's D. D. Sorry, my mistake. Anyways, again, so why D? It's again, it's implied because this one has already a support written there. So it is just implied that this tooth number 1-3 has an I bar. And yes, we do have an I bar. And with a support coming from the distal side. And given it's 1-3, it's already implied as a cingulum rest. But if you would like to write cingulum rest here, it's just okay. So it's more specific. Okay. Next up, tooth number, we have number 1-6. So 1-6, actually the way I write it is like this, 1-6-DO. 1-6-DO, then circlet, clasp. So DO again is a DO. Why do I write DO? MO. Sorry. Okay. At least I'm honest enough to admit my mistakes. Char. Anyways, yeah, MO. So MO 16 MO. So it's a circlet clasp coming from the mesial, and then we have mesial-occlusal rest. So do not be confused with my mistakes. At least I already corrected the mistakes. Char. Anyways, and then lastly, this one. So this is what? 2-5. Yep. So tooth number 2-5, I'll just write RPI. So yeah. And I do not need to write MO. Why will I not need to write MO? Because it's already RPI. So what does this mean for RPI? RPI has a mesially located wrist, a proximal plate at the distal, and an I-bar as a direct retainer. So yeah, there. It's already complete. RPI. So that's for the direct retainer. Next, for that direct retainer, we actually need to, if you have, in your case, an extra rest, just in a sense that you placed an extra rest for additional support, you may actually write it below here. Support, you just write it there. But since in our case we don't have one, then we don't have one. But again, this is what a class 2 modification 1 case. And what's that component that we usually look for? That is our indirect retainer. And since our indirect retainer is actually the cingulum rest there, you can just write it there, tooth number 1-3, cingulum rest. Doc, you already wrote it. It's there in the direct retainer with support. Why write it again? Well, actually, if you're just going to send it to the lab, it's just a good to know that you know where your indirect retainer is located. For Filipinos who are going to take the board exam, you need to write this because your board of examiners need to know that you know what you're doing. If you did not write an indirect retainer because you just know that you have placed it already there in the direct retainer with support, then they're going to look for that indirect retainer, and that's a minus to your point. Again, that is for Filipinos who are going to take the board exams. Okay? Well, yeah, then indirect retainer, it's that. And then what else? Of course, your minor connectors. So for your minor connectors, you can write minor connector there. And then grid work. So grid work. What type is your grid work? We have the ladder type or the lattice type. Why is this important? I'll explain later because you need to know that. And then your what else? Proximal plates. Well, usually we place proximal plates, prox plates. As another, if we have a standalone proximal plates, but in this case, your proximal plate is already here in your RPI, so there's no need for you to write it again because it's already here. But you're going to tell me, how about the case of indirect retainer? Why write it again? Well, again, I repeat, indirect retainer and support has two different functions, while proximal plate and proximal plate is just the same. Now, what else? So no proximal plate. Have I missed some of the components? None that I know of already. So we go and proceed with our pontics. So this is where the importance of your grid work lies. So if your choice of pontics is an acrylic, for example, let's place here acrylic. And then we write the shade A3, the mold, I don't know, our mold is M28, depending on what mold is it. It's because your lattice design is good for acrylic support. If you're going to write here porcelain, again, if you're going to write here porcelain and your grid work is lattice, it's already a wrong in your part because porcelain or porcelain pontics are only supported by mechanical means. I know I have discussed this to you. And what type of support or what type of grid work does it need? It needs metal studs or metallic posts. So you need that for your porcelain. So you better be careful. If your grid work design is a lattice, automatically your pontics are supposed to be what? Plastic. If you're going to opt for porcelain or something that is mechanically retained, then again, think again. Okay? So there. Like that. So since I have no more added specifications, I may already end my letter. So how do I end my letter? By telling them when do I need my framework. Okay, so again, just gonna write this here. Please deliver, deliver. What the fudge am I writing? Please deliver framework. Write a specific date. On or before, after quarantine. Char. On or before, let's say, May 2. May 2, 2020. They just opened. They did not yet open the lab. Char. It's just what they call this? An example. Anyway. Please deliver framework on or before May 2 for trial. So if this is just how the way you wrote it, they're just going to give you a framework. But if you are going to include framework and wax up, meaning it already has the pontics and then the denture base wax up there, so they're going to already include it there for trial. But again, as your part as students, or actually it's not good, you're supposed to try framework first, and then you're going to get your vertical relations and then your dimensions before you proceed to the wax up. So yeah, that's just so please deliver framework and wax up on or before May 2 for trial or try-in. And then have I forgotten? things. Wala naman. So you may already end up by saying thank you, of course, because again, we are courteous. Oh my gosh, my ball pens are giving up on me. Thank you. Then you're going to write your name, Dr. Zach, and then your license number, because I need a license number. They need the license number. And then your signature. There. So, yeah. So, that's how it looks like. Oh, you saw my patungan. Yep, it's Arizona. Want some? Sometimes also we write here, please follow illustration as a guide. And then we're going to draw an illustration in this part. So you imagine this illustration transferred in this part. You're just allowed to write, please follow illustration as a guide if you place an illustration. But again, students, if you are my students, you're supposed to place an illustration. Okay? So that's about it. Yep, this is your work authorization. There. So please have, as much as possible, do not follow me on the erasures. Do not write erasures because it's not nice and not clear and concise. But of course, who are we? We're not perfect. Anyways, so if you have questions, you may just drop a comment in the comment box below, Char, or you may message me directly. So for those who have already, I have already approved their cases, you may proceed into doing your work authorization if I already approve or says go to your drawing of your individual cases. Okay. Thank you very much and have a good day.